Hello everyone and welcome back to Roscale Sandbox. Today we are going to be finally continuing on with this part of the line. And now if you didn't see in our last episode, we finished off this nice farm area with a really cool humpback bridge, a couple more fields, and some houses that look really nice from the train line over here. And now I think it's finally time we start extending the tracks. First of all, let's add a little bit more of this grass base. And before we continue with any sort of track work, we need to lay down the ballast first of all. And yes, once again, we are going to be making a nice turn round to the left. So I've actually bought this quite a way round just because I do want this to sort of head back this way and then we're going to straighten out and head that way. And from this point, I do want to start heading up again. So if I grab this piece of ballast and we sort of rotate it at the upwards angle, hopefully our train should be able to make it up that. And so then at this point, we're going to flatten out again. And from here, we're going to turn and head off in a straight direction. We need to continue on the ballast and just use it to sort of straighten out the track. All right, so that is our massive extension done. Now we can actually go and put the track in now. And this shouldn't be too hard. All we do is come into Open Quick Build and click on Gap Fill. Make sure we bring our grid size all the way down. And now we just drag to add some more track. Alright, so that's one side done. Let me now come and do the other. And there we have two nice and smooth tracks. First of all, I know it's boring, but it looks really nice, so we're going to be adding some more fields and more farm stuff all around here, because I just really love the look of how the different coloured fields work. But if you guys are getting a little bit bored of that, I will do it in a stream or maybe off camera instead, because I know it is sort of the same thing over and over again. Then, as we sort of climb higher into the hills, this is going to be more shrubbery and more sort of barren land as we get higher and higher. And then the land is going to drop away into this really deep valley. And yes, you guessed it, I'm going to be adding a huge viaduct across the top here, which means we have got quite a lot to be getting on with. The first thing I want to do is continue these hills upwards, so it sort of looks like you're rising up into the hills. So we just need to bring a couple of these circles across. And I want to create the same effect for this side, however, I want the cliff face to be falling away. I think I might use the other style of terrain that we used. All the way back over here, we had these really sharp cliff faces, and I think I might add something similar to this. So, you know, something like this to give you a sort of general idea of what I want to do. So in fact, why don't we start building this right now? First of all though, I want the track to come right up to the cliff, so I'm going to pull this all the way back. So I've just rotated this first piece of the cliff to the same degree as this base plate here, and hopefully as we sort of vary the cliff going up, it should stay at the same level. And at this point, now the track has leveled out, I can also stop slanting these slopes up as well. And what I'm also going to do from here is split the cliff into two. So we have two sort of cliff faces, and it makes it a little bit more interesting than just having one sharp cliff face. And of course, from this point, I want the cliff to come round and curve in front of the track. So now I think it's time that we go and fill in all of these weird little gaps that we've got going on. And I've got my good friend, the cylinder, which will absolutely help with this. There we go. That is a pretty nifty and quick way to fill in some gaps. Now down here, where it gets a little bit shallower, I want to sort of transition from the cliff stuff that we've got going on to a more rounded hill kind of thing. And I also want to have that going along the bottom as well. Although I might use another couple of these circular plateaus because I think they're really cool. But definitely to aid with the smoothness of this transition, I'm going to use quite a lot of these balls. Again, these things are just so helpful, it's unreal. And then just like that, we end up with just a really nice bit of terrain. And I've also decided I want a cliff behind the track as well. However, I don't want it to rise with the track like this. I want it to start on this level and then just stay flat. So let's come and grab one of these. And I don't want to start this right in the ground, as we can sort of smooth this out with some balls later on. But I definitely think having the track sort of climb up between two cliff faces, I just think it'll be a nice change of scenery from what we've got going on in the previous parts of the railway. And then from here, I want to slope the cliff back to where the hill is sort of going to originate from. You know what? That was 100% the correct idea to follow. Look at how cool this is now looking. And so now what I'm going to do is go flatten out this bit of terrain. There we go. It is all sort of smoothened out now. And we've got this really gorgeous whole area that we can do some really cool stuff with. So I don't think there's going to be anything too crazy to build here, other than, you know, quite a lot of trees and some cool stuff like that. And then also when we get onto the viaduct, this is going to be one hell of a bridge. The one thing I do want to build, which is going to be quite unique though, is I want to put a nice big windmill upon the top of this hill. Let's start with a cylinder as the base, which I'm going to then make wider towards the bottom. And I think brick might be the best material. And so now if I want to start building the top, so let's have a block where the sails are going to go. Then we need to add some wedges either side. And then of course one at the back. And then we just need some corner wedges to finish this off. And so that is the top of the windmill looking really nice. Apart from the fact that I want the color to sort of be dark wood. And now we should be able to start building the sails. So my plan is to hopefully only have to build one. And then I should be able to copy that 4 times. So I've got the long arm like this, and then all I'm gonna need is a couple of these cross beams. And so if I copy this along a little bit, we should end up with something that sort of looks like the sail of a windmill. You know, I think the reason why that looks a little bit off is that it's actually a little bit too short. So let's add in a couple more of these. And there we go. I think that looks a lot better. So all I need to do is highlight this, group it together, and I should be able to copy this now. Talk of a windmill, that is looking really nice. So I think the only thing left to do now is just put some windows on this thing. And something as simple as that will do quite nicely. So I don't think I've got time to build any other sort of big structures today. And to be honest, I think up this way, it will be quite sort of barren with just some trees and bushes. So I think that's what I'm going to go and do now. And let's start putting some foliage into this area. Now, before I place any sort of trees, there's one thing I did forget, and I do want to have a little dirt track leading away from this windmill. And then again, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get this to go anywhere, so I'll just sort of let it run into the hills like this and just let it sort of disappear. It's just going to add a little bit of something up to the top of this plateau. So before we go and add the trees, I do just want to add a couple rocks here and there. There we go. I think that's going to add quite a nice bit of variation. And of course, lower down the cliff, I do want this to feel quite foresty. And then of course, here I've got to stop because that's where I'm going to be adding fields later on. Of course, the trees will sort of bleed into the farmland. It won't look so abrupt as that. But until I know where the fields are going to go, I'm not going to place any trees. I'm of course going to add in some of these to look like berry bushes. And hopefully the red will just add a little bit of color where needed. And there we go. I know it's sort of a bit boring and not really like bright and colorful and sort of really nice. But I think the cliffs are really cool, and I think these plateaus are really nice, and the way this is going to transition into the viaduct I think is going to be really epic. So that is all I have time for today. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to like the video, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you guys next week. Goodbye.